I'm really excited to have up here on our stage today three gentlemen that I've had the pleasure to work with in various capacities, and one that I've become a new friend with. I'm very excited about. So first, my newest friend on the stage here, if you don't mind, Ken, introducing yourself and giving a little bit of history of your company and what you do.
Well, thank you, Sevi, and thanks to all of you for coming out to this wonderful session. My name's Ken Jaeger. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called MorningStar Senior Living, based out of Denver, Colorado. I founded the company about 22 years ago, but have been involved in senior living since pretty much the day I got out of college. Worked up through the operational ranks to VP ranks, and then left out 22 years ago and started MorningStar based out of Denver. And we have roughly 40 communities across 11 states in the mountain region, West Coast, specializing in independent living, assisted living, and memory care. So we're a full continuum of development, operations, investment strategies in the space.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ken. Ken, I'd like to turn it a little over to you. So what are some of the innovations that you're looking at to be able to meet the expectations of our resident in this aging population, and perhaps some innovations in technology as related to, perhaps the resident experience, or even everybody's favorite topic, staffing and labor efficiencies? What are some of the ways that you're approaching that and have seen and see some really exciting opportunities there?
Well, thank you, Sevi. That's a wonderful question. Boy, it was so exciting to see about half of the audience already involved in senior living. It is an amazing space if you're not already involved in it. You get the best of both worlds with the human touch, the human element of it, putting your arms around seniors, listening to them, getting to know their stories. It's the great generation, the silent generation that grew up, in the Great Depression and the World War II and the Korean War and on and on and on. And when you hear their stories, my own dad, my father is 94 years old. He and I are exactly 30 years apart, and my son is 30 years younger than I am. And so you learn a lot from seniors. Matter of fact, the other day, because now, my dad, when he comes to visit, I have to be on one side of him, my son on the other, and help him go up the stairs because you just get frail. And here I am, I'm still working out, running up and down the stairs, no problem. And so I asked him one day, I said, Dad, I said, when did you really start to know you started getting old, right? When did that really happen? He said, well, that's easy, son. He said, when your mother said, honey, come upstairs to make love, and you knew you only had enough energy to do one of those. So you become old. So I like to think I'm young still, got a lot of energy. Last night, as a matter of fact, I was in Denver, and we had a 1-year anniversary of one of our new properties there. And it set all kinds of records with occupancy. Just banks give you about 2 years to lease up to 93% occupancy. They give you 2 years on the debt side, and this home filled up at 95% in 10 months. So we were celebrating that. I'm thinking, I'm walking in all confident, and you get humbled real quick when one of the seniors that lived there came up to me and said, "Which room are you in, Sonny? And are you available?" And I said,
that's a compliment.
As nice as this home is, I want to live here someday, but I told her who I was, and I said, my wife's right over there, by the way. So what are we seeing? It's so interesting, right? How times change, right? Somebody's going to move your cheese, and I can promise you that much in your space. And if not, we'd all still be riding a horse to work, but we're not. You look at 10, 15 years ago, and the space is still relatively young, like Justin said, 30 years. So 10 years ago, you would go into our space, and there'd be these 85 unit, 90 unit, Victorian mansion type things, this assisted living, memory care. units of 350 square feet to, the large units at 550 square feet. And we thought that was awesome, right? And then things evolve. And now I'm telling you, we were just over at our latest community right down the road here in Summerlin. And you walk in that home, you are probably going to want to say, all right, if you're not age appropriate for your parents probably are, and you're going to want to move in. They're gorgeous. We have designed these things. I love the Four Seasons, the Ritz-Carlton, that feel, and so do you, right? When you go in there, and why do you like them? It's because of the customer service, their pursuit of excellence, and they've got all these amenities. So we started designing our communities with all this common space. We're over 30% common space right now in our communities. And so you like to go to Starbucks, right? Any time of day, you've got a line at Starbucks. It's absolutely crazy. And why is that? So you create that environment. You want to create that feel. And now you come into our homes and you can go to the rooftop bar, and you've got, 75, 80, 85-year-olds up there having wine parties and wine and cheese events and watching ball games. And you want to create spaces where you can have a bratwurst or a burger at 3:00 in the afternoon. Or one of the gentlemen, I walked in around communities the other day, he said, Mr. Jaeger, he said, you know why I'm living here? This was at 2:30 in the afternoon. And he's sitting there having breakfast. And I said, no, I'd like to know why. And he says, because when I want my eggs at 2:30 in the afternoon, I can have them, right? And if I want a pancake, 8:00 at night, I can get a pancake. So we have all day dining. All these changes have come into senior living because I think Justin's probably going to talk about this here in a minute, with the baby boom generation hitting, what is it, 5,000 people a day, something like that, for the next 15 years, turn 65. And it's crazy for the next 15, 20 years. So you've got to stay ahead of innovation, look out for tomorrow what the seniors want, because it takes so long to develop. You all know that. So a lot of home-like environment, you can't forget that. This is somebody's home you're walking into, but yet the apartment itself is really just their bedroom when you think about it. They got all this great area to come and enjoy life with the friends that they're going to make, and they're going to make them quickly. Family members call up, say, hey, Mom, I'm coming over for lunch. Oh, no. I'm having lunch with my 6 friends today, right? And that's just what happens. So we want to create an environment that's social for people, where life enrichment happens to enrich your life. You don't want to come and sit in a wheelchair and dribble in your soup. So we have in-house therapies where you can get physical, occupational, speech therapy anytime you want it. You have healthcare. You got spas, swimming pools. Of course, beauty salons, and you have theaters and chapels, and you make it life enriched. And so that is what's happening in our space today, and it's very, very exciting.
I love that. And I love the stories directly from the residents in terms of telling you why they're there. And I think it is such a change from what their generation previously understood as options for them. Ken, you did such a great job of explaining how what Justin just talked about is so important in the inside of the walls for our residents to experience life, which is what they're doing in our buildings, right? Like there's still a lot of life in the years. And you've obviously, done a lot of amazing developments, and obviously, I know you and I talked about, you still have like one of the first buildings you ever developed. So obviously also gone through renovations during that time. You've worked with, different capital partners over the years. What would your advice be to somebody coming in to our industry, whether it's from an investment perspective, a development perspective, or even looking at an operations perspective? What would somebody from the outside, what would the one piece of advice be that you would give to them?
Well, another great question, Sevi. Thank you. I would say absolutely, it drives me crazy when this doesn't happen. if you're looking to get into the senior living space, is to really get your team together. And what I mean by that, if you're a developer, you really need to partner up with a strong operator. And if you're an operator, obviously you need a strong developer, and then you need a great team of an architect and a general contractor, and you all have to be around the table. You need someone who does the market study and does it really, really well. You don't want somebody who says, I got a great site in Dodge City, Kansas, on top of fence posts. No, what did I think of building there, right? You don't want to do that. So you have to really get your market analysis done with a great firm. You want, like I say, the architect. You don't want your kitchen in the basement. So the operator has to be around the table. It's a heavy, heavy, heavy operational intensive business. So if you're just in the real estate side of it, that's awesome. That's great. But marry up with the right operator, the right architect, the right general contractor, find the right site. If you build it, it's going to work, and here's the reason why. So then when you approach the investment side of it, looking for the debt and equity, all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted. So it's a team effort. So I would really encourage everybody to work together.
Excellent advice. I hope everyone's taking some notes.